Hello everyone, welcome to your channel Alpha Global. I hope you all are safe and protected. COVID-19 crisis has been a challenging one for everyone, but I would like to wish my viewers as well as subscribers and every other person to stay safe. So please stay safe and stay protected. So, first of all, on behalf of Alpha Global, I would like to thank you to all my viewers and subscribers for supporting this channel from time to time. Though we had very limited videos in spite of that and limited subscribers, still we are thankful and grateful because we just wanted to see how our videos, what we are trying to create a value for our viewers and subscribers. Does it really make some difference? So the purpose is served for Alpha Global as far as if it is taken care. So with this we are very grateful and we look forward for such kind of a support from your end. Coming to before we step in for today's video, which is going to be about key highlights about the Companies Amendment Act, Companies Amendment Bill 2020. I would like to introduce first myself. My name is Santosh. So far I have been representing myself as Mr. X because we just wanted to see how Alpha Global as a channel, whether it is getting some response or not. So we are just waiting for that. So I think there is some responses are there, and we have also got some kind of support. So we feel that this will motivate us in taking it forward, and that is where we are coming forward. And my name is Santosh, and just to introduce myself, I am a CS and a law graduate and also hold a master's degree in financial management. So the objective of the Alpha Global as a channel is to do anything which is contributing and making a value to some to our viewers. So please continue your support, and if you really like our videos, you can go ahead and subscribe. We will That will encourage us to do more and more better work. So having said this, I would like to start the day for today on the Companies Amendment Bill 2020, the key highlights. As you may be aware, friends, that Companies Act 2013, earlier there was Companies Act 1956 which got repealed, and then 2013 came in force again. This went into amendments from 2015, 2018, 2017, 2019, and again there is one more bill which is there, which is placed before the Lok Sabha, which is called as the Companies Amendment Bill 2020. Well, there may be various videos, you may also have the information about it. Our objective of doing the Companies Amendment Bill 2020 video is very simple, that as much as possible to make it very simple and to the point what exactly the provision says. So we have made an effort, and we hope we'll be able to connect to you in terms of what exactly all the key highlights are going to be of today. So let's get started. Companies Amendment Bill. In this is a bill which has been placed before Lok Sabha, and it is not yet turned into an act. So whatever the information is there in um, the bill, we have just tried to take a few key extracts of that one and try to make it simple. So we will try to let you know what are the main changes. Point number one: multiple sections are there. There are various sections in Companies Act which had criminalization or imprisonment clauses. Now the entire most of the clauses in the Companies Act has been removed, and now you can see that there is majority of the clauses which had criminalization has been taken out. So it's a decriminalization of the offenses under the Companies Act. This is proposed in the bill, and which will, if it is being implemented and it is turning into an act, so it will be a big boost to the Indian Inc. Coming to the second major change which has been proposed in the bill is conversion from fines to penalties. So many sections are there. We are not going to get into the details of the each section because that you may always get the information from the bill itself. But the idea is that quickly to point out that what are the major changes in this bill. So if you may remember that many of the places there have been fines which were proposed in the earlier existing provisions as of now, since this is a bill. So all those fines which has been proposed in the bill is changed into penalties. And in fact, you may recollect that the fines normally starts with minimum so and so, and it can extend up to so and so. So somewhere on an average we have seen that the penalties what has been now is more of a kind of a straight basis, that it is somewhere falling in between the minimum and the maximum. So kind of it has been reduced to a great extent, so that there is a not have heavy fines on the corporates in any way for the non-compliances, but at the same time compliances also adhere. So in short, to sum up, there is a decriminalization of offenses in the sense that the imprisonment related things have been taken out in most of the sections except which are very serious nature, and the fines has been changed into penalties, direct liability. Next, what is the other change? The definition of the term listed company has undergone change. Refer to section 2 subsection 52. Now the definition of listed company was that anything which has been listed on a recognized stock exchange. Now in this bill there is a proposal to include certain classes of such companies which may be either listed or going to be listed, and certain securities, class of securities, it may not be treated as a listed company. We would like to make you understand for an example that let's assume a private limited company is there. It is having its equity which is not listed, but it has got its debentures issued which has been listed on the exchange, stock exchange. So it's only a debt securities which has been listed. So in this situation, it has to still comply with the SEBI rules, regulations, and listing related requirements as a listed company. So possibly there is a scope that, you know, in order to give such companies some kind of a room of convenience, so the listed company category, the definition has undergone, proposed to be under proposed to make a change, and the more details we'll get to know about it once this becomes an act, and more details and the class of companies are disclosed by the central government. Next, section 16. Section 16 is reference to rectification of name of company. Just to make a simple background to what this is, let me explain to you. Imagine that you are already having a company which is already incorporated, but you want to make a change of the name and you have already made the changes to that. Or if it's a fresh company which has been started, so you have got the name registered with the ROC, and subsequently the new name which has been registered, which comes to the knowledge of any other company which is infringing the trademark. So the such other company can make an application to the ROC within 3 years period of time, and it can ask for the ROC to make the necessary changes for the former company. In this situation, please listen carefully. In this situation, ROC can ask the company A in this context to make the necessary changes of the name which has already been approved within a period of 3 months. This 3 months earlier was proposed as 6 months. Now it has been reduced to 3 months. This is one important change. Second, the next change is that in case if the instructions given by the government, central government, or the ROC, which is not been complied by the company A, then the central government can directly allot suo motu the new name to this company, and that company A can go ahead and make another name change thereafter. So this is a major change in section 16. So in short, we can see that the period of the 6 months has been reduced to 3 months for rectification. And second is that a suo motu ROC or central government can change the name of the company, provided the company A doesn't follow the directions of the ROC. The third, section 23. Now these are there are two insertions, are section 23.3 and section 23.4. So before getting into it, I would like to explain you about a quick background about section 23. Section 23 is reference to issue of the securities, let it be by a public company or a private limited. So what is the way how funds can be raised by the public company is that it can raise the funds through rights issue, or it can do it through bonus issue or private placement or SEBI related some rules regulations, or it can do so by issuing the prospectus. Private limited company, other than issuing of the prospectus to the public, all other modes remains the same, that is again the rights issue and the bonus issue, private placement. Now the new provision which has been inserted, which says that a public company, I am referring here only to public company, classes of public company, will be now allowed to invest directly, sorry, not invest, will be allowed directly to list the securities directly into the foreign markets. So this is a very good provision which has been proposed, and if this turns into an act, so it will give a great room for the Indian companies to directly make the listing in the foreign markets. In addition to this, the central government has also can exempt by notification any classes of public companies from complying with the provisions of section 89, 90, 127, chapter 3 and 4. To quickly summarize what are these sections is that 89 refers to declaration of beneficial interest in any shares. Section 90 is about the significant beneficial ownership. 127 is reference to failure of a company to pay the dividend. Chapter 3 and chapter 4, as you may be already aware, it will be about prospectus allotments as well as about shares, capitals and debentures. So in this section 23, these are the two new changes which has been proposed. So in short, you can say is that foreign listing of the securities in foreign market is now allowed provided this turns into an act, and it will central government has a power to exempt the certain list of the companies from certain sections provisions in terms of compliance. The next change is section 62. Section 62 is about the rights issue or further issue of the shares. You may recollect that rights issue or further issue of shares means where the background is that until now the company, in case if they want to issue the shares, they have to issue the letter of offer under 62(1)(a), and the letter of offer, it can be given between a period of 15 days and 30 days minimum. So in another words, there was a waiting period of up to 15 days. Now a proposal has been made where in the bill it says that it can be 15 days or lesser period. So this is a good thing, because the companies need not wait for up to 15 days for the letter of offer to get over and then to take further activities. So the provision of a period of 15 days or lesser period, this is the major change which you may take note of. Next, section 89. Section 89 is about declaration of beneficial interest. A new clause has been proposed which says that it can exempt any such classes of person from requirements of compliance under section 89. So you may be recollect that in section 89, in case it is about the registered owner and beneficial owner, if the person who is holding the share is a registered owner and not a beneficial owner, he is required to make a declaration in MGT4, and in case of a beneficial owner whose name is not registered in the register of members, then he has to make a declaration in MGT5, and these two declarations will go to the company in MGT6, and then it will be filing which will be made in section 89 to the companies, to the ROCs. So now there is an additional provision which has been inserted where central government can take an exemption from compliance with this requirements to any classes of a person. This is a additional provision inserted. Next change, section 117. What is section 117? Section 117 is about resolutions or agreements which are required to be filed with the register of companies in form of a resolutions. So there are various resolutions which are required to be filed by a company, which you may get to know about in section 117 as well as under section 179(3). So what is the change? You may note that in section 117, banking companies were earlier allowed to be exempted from filing any such resolution which was in nature of granting loans or guarantees or providing securities. This is stated in the section 117 provision. Now, in addition to banking companies, the change is that even the NBFCs and housing finance companies are also exempted from filing resolutions in the with ROC with respect to 179(3)(f). Please note that this is only the resolution reference to granting of the loans, guarantees or providing securities, since the nature of these companies will be more of into giving loans and guarantees and securities. So this is one major change proposed in the companies amendment bill. The next is a new section 129A. A new section 129A has been inserted, which is reference to giving a scope for a class of unlisted companies to file periodical financial statements, not just annually but periodically with the ROC. You may remember that in listed companies, every quarterly they need to file a report, that is the audited financials they have to do, and in case if they are not able to do the audited financials within every quarter, there is a limited review report which has to be filed with the stock exchanges, and this is a common practice in the listed companies. Now there is also a proposal that certain classes of unlisted companies also has to do the same pattern of periodical financial results. They may have to prepare, they may have to do the audit, or in case if the audit is not fully complete, a limited review of the financials has to be done, and that has to be filed with the registrar along with with a copy of the same with the ROC. So this is a new change which has been mentioned, and which may be more clear in terms of the rules once it gets released on which class of unlisted companies will fall under this category. Next, section 135. Section 135 is about the corporate social responsibility. Well, for us, section CSR is a very important section. So I will let you know what exactly the change will be in the CSR in terms of at least in the bill what has been proposed. So CSR, earlier there was no requirement to carry forward, or there was no provision as such where which allowed the companies, if they spend more than the 2% of the average profits in a financial year, that amount can be adjusted in the subsequent years. Now there is a provision which has been proposed where 135(5), if the amount is spent in excess of 2% of the average profits, then any excess amount which has been spent can be set off in the next succeeding financial years. So it's a very welcome step, so that many companies which have made excess amount, they can adjust it in the next subsequent years, and it can also be a kind of a less burden to small companies, where they don't end up in paying more than required and not getting the benefit of set off also. So that is one change. Next, penalty provisions were never there in CSR, but there was only about if the company do not spend the necessary amount, then it was required to disclose the same in the director's report. Now there is a penalty provision also has been proposed. So what is the penalty provision which has been proposed is that on the company, in case if they do not comply with the CSR provisions, on the company it will be 2 times of the amount which is required to be transferred to any of the funds which is specified in Schedule 7. Funds in the sense it can be central government funds, Prime Minister's Relief Fund, or any such fund which has been specified in the Schedule 7. To that it has to transfer 2 times of the amount, and in case if not that, then the amount which is unspent corporate social responsibility account, or it will be INR 1 crore, whichever is less. So the penalties are quite high, so CSR compliance is of utmost importance for the companies. So this is a very important thing for the CS professionals to take note of. So what is it that the penalty on the officers? So on the officers, let's assume that a company was supposed to pay 50 lakhs supposed to be the minimum amount, and in case if they have not made it, so it becomes 1 crore which they are supposed to transfer it to the funds 2 times as it says. So on the 1 crore amount which it is required to be transferred, 1/10 of the amount for the officers will be applicable, or 2 lakh rupees, whichever is less. So in case if we go with 1 crore, on that 1/10 will become 10 lakh rupees. So 10 lakh or 2 lakhs, whichever is less. So ideally for an officer, the penalty will be up to 2 lakhs or anything lesser than that. So this is a penalty which has been proposed. In short, it is 1/10 of the amount which is there, or it is 2 lakhs, whichever is less. So this is the second change in the section 135 which has been proposed. The third important thing is that until now there was a requirement for a constitution of a CSR committee if the CSR based on certain profits and the criteria, once it is applicable, then CSR committee had to be constituted. Now there is a proposal that if the total amount which is required to be spent by a company is within 50 lakhs, then the CSR committee is not required to be constituted. In short, the functions of a CSR committee can be taken care and discharged by the board of directors itself. So any company, let's assume if it's a small company and based on its profits or the turnover, criteria. If that amount which is required to be spent at 2%, if it is not exceeding 50 lakhs in a financial year at the beginning itself, and the company can come to know about what is the amount it is required to be spent for that financial year. If it is exceeding 50 lakhs, then it may and if it is not constituted, it may have to constitute. If not, then the CSR committee constitution is not necessary, provided the amount to be spent for that financial year is less than 50 lakhs. So this is for those companies where there is no CSR committee yet constituted, they can take note of it. Section 149. Now section 149 is about the independent directors. Well, and section 149.9 there is a provision, provision that now the independent directors are entitled to receive the necessary remuneration other than the fees which has been specified in section 197.5, even if the companies are not having profits or inadequate profits. Now let me explain to you this. Until now, it was only 197.5 where the sitting fees was allowed. Now independent directors are entitled to receive remuneration in the sense that even if the company is not having necessary profits and inadequate profits, independent directors are allowed to get some amount other than the sitting fees. So you may refer, I would like to refer you here to section 197 also for a minute. You see in section 197.3 also there is a proposal which has been that it says that in the absence, means this is not exactly the wordings from the bill, but based on the analysis, and this has been summed up into the statement. In the absence of adequate profits or no profits, the company, subject to provisions of Schedule 5, shall not pay any remuneration to MD, WTD manager, any non-executive director, including an independent director. So this word of independent directors here is a matter of importance. In other words, the persons are allowed to pay remuneration under Schedule 5 even if the company have no profits or inadequate profits. So in short, I would like to make you understand how this works. So let's assume that a company is there which is having no profits, inadequate profits. So in a normal scenario, or if the company had normal profits, it would have to pay the necessary up to 11% of the profits or anything which has been decided. Or if that is a single managing director, whole-time director, 5% of the profits, which is as per Schedule 5 and section 197. What in case, so that is what is normally paid as a remuneration within certain ceiling limits. Now in case if the company is not having any profits, in that situation there will be no payouts. That is not possible because they have to go with the Schedule 5 applicability. So I'll just explain you with the schedule so you may be able to connect better. Just 1 second. Okay. Okay, just 1 second. I'll just put it as 197. Okay, I think there is a connectivity issue. So anyways, I will explain to you as it is. So what does this mean is that a company can always go ahead and pay to its directors, managing directors, whole-time directors, uh, including the independent directors. So what Schedule 5 says that if any company which is having any kind of the losses or in losses, or in case of inadequate profit, then for based on their paid up capital structure, they are required to pay the necessary remuneration within certain bandwidth. So let's assume that the paid up capital of the company is between 0 crore to 5 crores. This is just an example, and it is between 15 crores to 100 crores, whatever the different slabs are there. You can always refer to Schedule 5, in that it is clearly mentioned. So whatever the remuneration which has been specified therein, that the directors are entitled to get even if the company is not having any profits. Now This option was there earlier only for the directors and not for non-executive directors and independent directors. Now this proposal in 197 includes even non-executive director and independent director. So I hope you are able to get this understanding of section 197.3 and 149.9. So to make it very clear, independent directors they will be entitled for setting fees, that is under 197.5, but other than setting fees they will be entitled to receive the remuneration in spite of having whether the profits or non-profits. Now I'll section 188. Now what is section 188? Section 188 is on the related party transactions. Now so related party transactions 188, the penalty has been enhanced. Here the imprisonment clause was the which has been omitted, and the penalty for any kind of violation under section 188 on the company, the directors or the employees has been increased, and if it is on the company then it is up to 25 lakhs, and if it is on the directors or the employees it will be 5 lakhs respectively. Next change is on the section 284. What is section 284? It is all about a company which is in the process of dissolution. Then a company liquidator is required to discharge his duties and responsibilities. During this course of time, the directors, promoters, officers and employees of the company are required to cooperate. In case if these persons do not cooperate with the company liquidator, then the proposal has been the bill says that the company liquidator do have an option to make an application to the tribunal, that is the NCLT, and can seek an order for cooperation from these persons. So this is a good change, so that the discharge of the company liquidator responsibilities can be taken care. Section 302. Now in section 3023, in case of the resolution of the company by the tribunal, the change is that the tribunal shall directly forward the copy of this order of the dissolution to the registrar. So prior to this, what was happening was that the company liquidator used to forward the copy of the order to the registrar, but this has been changed or proposed to be changed, wherein tribunal itself will act directly to send the copy of the dissolution to the registrar. Now there is also a new sections and new chapter has been introduced on the producer company. Next, now producer company, you may recollect that it was in section 1956, there was an entire chapter was there. Now the new chapter 21A has been introduced after 21, which is on the producer companies, and the various new sections which are there are from 378A to 378ZU. The entire chapter can be referred for producer companies in specific. But there is one more new section which has been introduced, which is called as section 393A. So what does this section say? This section allows the central government to exempt by the notification foreign companies and other companies from any of the provisions of chapter 22. So let me explain. So what is chapter 22? Chapter 22 is applicable for companies which are incorporated outside India, foreign companies. So this provision allows that certain foreign companies and other companies, whether they are incorporated in or to be incorporated outside India, and even if they don't have any business or plan to have any business setup or establishment in India, they may be allowed some kind of the exemptions if required from any of the provisions of chapter 22, which is generally from section 379 to 393. So this is the change. And next is section 403. Section 403 is relating to fees on filing, as you may be aware. So earlier section 403, you may refer that whenever there is any document or information which is required to be recorded, it has to be filed within certain period in a normal fees, and in case if there is a delay, then it is to pay with the additional fee. Thereafter, if there was any default on two or such more occasions, then the amount which used to be paid was almost minimum twice of the additional applicable fee which was applicable for the respective provisions. Now the change what is there is been proposed in the cap 2020 is that in case if there is a default of two or more occasions in registering or recording any document, the payment will be higher than the additional fee, as prescribed. It means that if whatever the additional fee is there, which is already applicable under 403, over and above that, the additional fee will be applicable, but not necessary it has to be two times of the minimum additional fee. So there may be a lesser penalty or lesser fee compared to the earlier existing provisions, where it says at least two times of the minimum additional fee. So I hope you have a clarity on this. If not, then I can definitely connect you to the act, and then possibly you may be able to understand. Okay, 403. So 403, here you may see that it says, provided also that if there is a default in two or more occasions in submitting, registering, recording document or any legal action submitted as the case may be, payment of higher additional fee as may be prescribed, and which shall not be less than twice the additional amount as specified in the second proviso is applicable. So this word of twice the additional fee, this has been replaced with such higher additional fee. So next is section 418A. So this is once again a new section. So the benches of NCLT normally sits in New Delhi. Now they are allowed to sit, or in fact not exactly allowed, the central government in consultation with the chairman of the bench may decide which other places where the NCLT bench may have to sit, and they may notify by the same, and therefore the NCLT benches can also be in a place other than New Delhi. Section 435. Section 435 is about the special courts. See, the special courts have been set up for providing speedy trial of offences under this act, and shall exclude section 452. So earlier it used to be all the provisions for trial offences. Now all the offences will be covered, excluding section 452. It means that in section 452, I would like to connect you to section 452 here, where it says that in case, see, section 452 is reference to any kind of any employee or officer of the company who holds any kind of the cash or any property is in possession of the company and withholds with him, and it is wrongly used or misused or applied. Therefore such person, officer or employee, based on the complaint of the company, can be imprisoned for a period up to 2 years. Now this should not be misused, hence the section 452 has been excluded in section 435, and again in section 452 the provision of such imprisonment is subject to that, such kind of subject to condition that if the employee shall not be just imprisoned, or will not be given an order of imprisonment until the court is satisfied that the person is not anywhere involved in having any such amount of cash, or as the case may be, which pertains to the statutory dues provided by to be provided by the company in form of a PF fund, gratuity, pension, or any such other workman compensation fund. So hence the section 452 is excluded in section 435. Next is section 441(5). Now what is section 441? It is reference to compounding application. Now compounding application is whenever there is any compounding of offense, an application is made, and when such application is made, the regional director or the tribunal, as the case may be, may pass an order asking the company or the officials to register or file any such other document information through ROs in form of a return, or as the case may be. Now if such kind of the document return which is required to be filed with registrar, and if there is a delay made, then there will be some fines which will be imposed. Now the change is that the maximum fine which is proposed is twice the amount which is provided in the corresponding section. So prior to that, if you notice in section 441, just for the purpose of your understanding, I am just connecting you to 441 here. This is section 441. You see 441 subsection 5. It says here, any officer of the company who fails to comply with any order made with the tribunal, regional director, central government shall be punishable with imprisonment for a term which may extend to 6 months or with a fine which shall extend to 1 lakh rupees or both. So this term of imprisonment as well as a fine not exceeding 1 to 2 lakh, this has been replaced or proposed to be replaced, and maximum fine which is proposed is twice the amount in the corresponding section. So this is the change. Section 446b. So what is 446b? It is reference to the fines or penalties which lesser fines or penalties on the OPC as well as the small companies. Until now it was applicable on OPC and small companies, whereas now it is also applicable to the startup and producer companies also, in addition to OPCs. And what is the change here? The change here is that the penalty shall be, in case of any kind of the non-compliances of the provisions, the penalty shall be one half of the penalty specified in the respective sections, and maximum 2 lakh rupees on the company and 1 lakh rupees on the officer. Prior to this, if you see in the italics, it is specified. Prior to this, what was the penalty was that OPC and small company, the penalty was applicable only to OPC and small company and for pertaining to provisions of section 92, 517 and 137 only. So the changes what is there is that in place of 92, 517 and 137, it says the non-compliance of any provisions under this Companies Act is the change. And second is that the penalty has also been somewhere 1.5 of the penalty of the respective sections, or 2 lakhs or 1 lakh. So this is the minor change which is there in 446b. Section 452, though it is already explained, still if you require I will just revisit on section 452. Section 452 refers to any wrong holding or in wrong possession of any of the property by the employee or the officer. So what happens, I'll just give a quick background. In section 452, if any of the employee or the officer of the company who has any kind of the cash or any property which is in possession of a company and which it misuses or misapplies, therefore, and based on the complaint made by the company or the shareholder, and the employee or the officer may be subject to, other than refunding the amount, may be also subject to imprisonment for a period up to 2 years in case if there is any default made, and the court may give an imprisonment up to 2 years. Now a kind of a protection has been provided here for the officer or the employees of the company, because they should not be misused also, and they should be given some protection. Let's assume that if the employee or the officer is an innocent, they should also be given protection under the law. So somewhere we are of the view that, for that purpose, this provision has been introduced in the cap 2020, where it says that the mere imprisonment of it means to say that mere imprisonment of an officer or employee of the company specified under this section shall not be ordered for wrongful possession or withholding of a dwelling unit is concerned, if the court is of the view and satisfied the company has not paid any amount to such kind of the officer or employee which pertains to certain statutory dues of the company, like the PF fund, gratuity, pension funds, other welfare or workmen compensation fund, since these are statutory dues. So I hope you have got clarity on section 452. Next is section 454. Section 454 is on adjudication. Now what does this say is that the summary of the section 454 what has been proposed in the CAB is that the monetary penalty cannot be imposed on a company for non-compliance under section 92(4)(137)(2), that is on the annual return and the filing of the accounts of the financials of the company, provided the company rectifies the default before the issue of the notice by adjudicating officer. So in short, it means that though if the company has failed to file the annual return or the audited financial statements within a certain period, and if the notice has been already issued or before the issue of the notice by the adjudicating officer, if the company rectifies such kind of the default, then such kind of the penalty cannot be imposed. So this is a good room for the companies to make sure that they do not fall into any of the non-compliances and stay away from the monetary penalty. So these are overall the amendments we have tried to explain in short, though the video has been a bit long. It's been almost 30-35 minutes, but I hope we have been able to convey to you the message of the what are the proposed changes in the company's amendment bill 2020. um, if you really feel that this video you like and if it creates any kind of the value to you, please like and subscribe to this channel. Do share the video to your known persons and click on the bell icon, and possibly we will come out with some other video in the near future on some other good topic to our knowledge. So thank you so much for staying with us, and stay safe and stay protected. Thank you.